This is Ready, Set, Reiki, a podcast about Reiki, the universal energy life force. From the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all levels, all lineages. Reiki is a journey, not a destination. And on this Ready, Set, Reiki journey, we refer to ourselves as guides rather than hosts, as we too are traveling, supporting each other, and learning on this Reiki journey as well. And with that said, I am your guide, Tracy C. Wright. And today joining me on my journey is Diana Maria Chapin. Now, she is a professional energy healer, HeartMath certified trainer, organizational consultant, and public speaker based in beautiful Belfast, Maine, with over 2 decades of experience in behavioral wellness and a decade in studying and practice in energy medicine. Her mission is to empower individuals to find their inner peace, navigate life's challenges, and embrace their true potential. She helps organizations improve cultural coherence and employee wellness through resilient training and the art of science of heart-brain coherence. In addition to her private practice, she is the president and founder of the Healing Garden, a mid-coast, Maine-based educational nonprofit dedicated to removing financial barriers and creating greater access to holistic wellness education, training, and care. Now, a scientist by training and a lover of words and communication, she has devoted herself to mastering the intricacies of numerology, energetics, biochemistry related to stress, trauma, and healing. She is passionate about translating complex concepts in relatable, practical, and accessible knowledge for people of all walks of life. As a professional speaker and organizational consultant for employee wellness, she shares the cohesive advantage and evidence-based HeartMath, the Institute Resilient program that offers naturally easy heart-based tools and techniques for individuals and groups with the power of heart-brain coherence. Now, Diana guides people to improve their emotional self-regulation skills and access their best decision-making abilities. Tune into intelligent, intuitive power of their heart and enhance overall well-being. So welcome, Diana, to Ready, Set, Reiki.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm happy to be here.
All right, well, let's begin our journey together. So after this introduction, tell me about yourself.
Well, I love that you referred to the journey as a Reiki journey. I've been on this journey for going on 9 years now, but previous to that, I worked in behavioral health. And previous to that, I was trained as a scientist, an environmental and horticultural scientist. And so I grew up in love with nature and felt that I was a very spiritual being. But I was raised in a religious culture that did not understand Reiki and even, didn't consider it anything favorable. So in about 9 years ago, I started experiencing in meditation energy moving in my body that I couldn't explain. And so it just launched me on a process of coming to terms with the model of reality that I inherited through my education and my religious upbringing and my family culture, my local culture. And I had to confront some very difficult things. I had to dismantle some beliefs that I had held and learn new information based on my own personal experience. And I began feeling in meditation and throughout the day energy that I couldn't explain. And I just got more interested in that and less interested in what I had learned previously in my life, and just decided to take that as my truth and began learning about the chakras, studying a bit of Eastern mysticism. And eventually I met my Reiki teacher, Mary McCormick, and she taught me Reiki to the master teacher level. And that journey just led me into the world of quantum physics and heart coherence and a whole bunch of great stuff.
So when did Reiki come into your life? Did you find Reiki or did Reiki find you?
Yes, I had, as I mentioned, I'd been experiencing a lot of what I would have then called really weird and wonderful energy in my body. And it was starting to get a little overwhelming, and I didn't have words or language to put to it. And I happened to go to a women's health conference with a friend and went to lunch with her friend who I'd never met before. And her friend is my teacher, Mary. And over lunch, when she said she was a Reiki practitioner, I said, "What's Reiki?" And she told me, and I was like, "Well, get this. This is what I'm feeling in my body." And she let me just gush it all out. And she said, "Well, you really need to learn Reiki because what you're feeling is energy, and Reiki will really help you understand what it is you're feeling and how you can use it because you are a healer in this world." And so that was just really awesome for me to hear that there's some hope for understanding what I was experiencing. And Mary really helped me get my mind wrapped around what was going on with me.
Wonderful.
And so
So what
I would say it found me.
Perfect. So what system or systems of Reiki did you study?
I am in the Mikao Usui lineage.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you were out working in this field, this energy work, and helping serving others. As you're out navigating, what is a common misconception that you find about Reiki, or rather energy work?
That it's not real, that it's imaginary, which I feel like I welcome that challenge from anyone because I've studied the science that informs the practice, and I can really speak to what's happening from a heart coherence and a quantum physics point of view. And it's so easy now for me to help people understand that their own intuition guides them to the truth of energy management within their own body, and they do have some sense that it's coming from this place of the heart, and the heart possesses this consciousness beyond the cranial brain. It has a loving consciousness, and that we're sharing Reiki all the time when we hug each other and when we reach out and touch each other. People have just never thought of it that way. And so it's just such a tendency, I think, in our culture to dismiss or even demonize something we're not familiar with or something that we can't explain. But I really use the science to help people demystify the spiritual things that they do know intuitively are true.
Beautiful. Now, you have helped guide people improve their emotional self-regulation skills. You help them with their best decision-making abilities. You help them tune into their intuitive power. You help them with their struggles and challenges on their healing journey. But what has been the biggest challenge or struggle you faced in your own healing journey?
I would say separation from my family, my core family, my family of origin. My dad passed away when I was in my mid-30s, suddenly one afternoon. And my mother, 5 months later, started a 12-year experience with sinus cancer, a very rare cancer that really created a lot of disruption in her life and in the course of what I thought my life would be like. And then, I've had a very challenging relationship with close family members and had to do a lot of work that, to process what I would call, wildly challenging personalities and the grief that's involved with separation, either through transitioning or through just coming to terms with relationships that are no longer healthy to me.
Right.
And that's been, is, as you know, I'm sure it's like those are the most challenging experiences and also our best teacher. So I have really, as I've navigated through it, it's been really deep and daily work putting to practice what I share with other people. And so there's, a level of mastery in that where you become aware that the only thing and the only one you're mastering is yourself.
It's a great way to look at it. But what a blessing that you've had these heart-based tools and techniques to work with.
Yeah, all healing really comes from the heart. In energy medicine, the heart is the center of our energy anatomy, as you know. And what science is now showing is that our heart has its own nervous system. And this nervous system, along with the afferent and the neurological pathways in our body, is actually regulating the activity of our brain, where the model we inherited would have us believe that, we have to analyze and, get logical and rational and that everything's happening in our cranial brain. But cardioneurology is now showing that our heart has this brain that is complex, that is influential, and that remembers, learns, knows, and is a great guide. And so the tools of heart coherence and my training with the HeartMath Institute, which is a great nonprofit online that offers people, lots of free tools for engaging in the practices of heart coherence. Through practice, the heart memorizes these states of peace and optimal functioning. And so if we implement some of these tools, then we're teaching our brain, our cranial brain, to be more focused, to have greater levels of cortical functioning, and to soothe those emotional centers that can really drive some drama in our lives.
Beautiful. What a wonderful tool. So fascinating. So, what do you wish your younger self knew about Reiki or knew about the heart coherence advantage?
I wish my younger self knew how to love herself. I was raised in a educational and religious paradigm and a cultural paradigm where self-sacrifice was really, to be a martyr was like the highest possible pursuit for a human being. And so I lived many decades in that model. And I now know that because I was conditioned to fear and shame and guilt, I deprived myself of that natural inclination of my heart to be in love with myself and my life and the collective. I thank goodness that I was raised on a farm. I grew up on a sheep farm, and we had big vegetable gardens and lots of outdoor space in the woods. And I spent most of my childhood, and I spend a lot of my time now out in nature. And so that's my landing place to come back to nature. And I think that when I think about my younger self, she was very much in love with nature. And throughout my life, being in touch with plants and other beings has taught me, the stability that comes with being in love with the things close to you. And so I would definitely want my younger self not to develop habitual patterns and addictions around fear, shame, and guilt.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work to overcome. And I wish I taught my children that too. My children were very young when my dad passed away, and I hadn't heard, I didn't know anything about Reiki, and I didn't really know anything about Reiki until they were in their late teens and early 20s. But I feel like, I miss that opportunity to teach them love. I mean, not, they are very loving creatures and beautiful beings on this planet, but I would have parented different, is what I'm saying. And I'm so happy to see, a movement toward conscious parenting happening
Right.
right now. And so I hope I'm contributing to that in my work as well, for humanity in general, to create a more loving, self-loving humanity.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being part of the solution, right, to our world
Yeah.
here. So, when it is time for you to get an energetic tune up, what are some qualities that you look for in a Reiki practitioner or energy worker?
I trust my heart in this realm, and I feel into whether I can trust that person deeply. And so I have a few close people who um, I I share energy with, and in reciprocity we do trades. And we're women who take care of each other. So it's really a heartfelt thing. It's not really in any way, shape, or form a certificate that hangs on the wall. It's not any formal, educational training. It's not, what they know, or I think more than anything, it's how they talk about energy, how they experience energy, and is there synergy there, and how we're experiencing, being dedicated to infinite intelligent love.
Beautiful. Well, I'm glad you have that support group.
Mm,
Not too many people have that. What a
yeah,
blessing. What a
it
blessing.
really is.
So, what advice would you give someone who's just entering this profession of healing?
I would say allow your gifts to develop in you, and really honor that your gifts are your gifts. And if other people have really fantastic gifts, bless them and enjoy your own tremendously and develop them. And let them just develop organically without rushing or pushing. Each step of the way, when we engage with the natural healing capacity that we have, and we engage deeply with that and learn from it, we're bringing gifts that I imagine we can't even measure, just really influencing through relational energetics, everyone, but also through developing our wisdom and our connection to the gifts that we possess. I know that I'm always incredibly fascinated. My teacher, Mary, for example, is really clairvoyant, and I am not very clairvoyant at all. I'm clairsentient. I feel the flow of energy. And what she experiences in energy is just fantastic, and she can talk about it really, really well and extensively. It's so beautiful. And she taught me, and I thank her for this, that I'm not clairvoyant, and I'm just fantastic anyway.
Yeah.
And so I just think, it's so tempting to be like, oh, I wish I could see things like that, or I wish I could feel things like that, or oh, I wish I heard angelic music all the time. But it's just like, well, if that's not how you're experiencing energy, learn about yourself, because I'm sure there's something in there that is
Sure, sure. And
needed in
it could
this
be a
world.
possible, not yet, right? Maybe that's
Yeah.
going to develop in time. So be open to it. So you
Yeah.
may not have it at that exact time, but it may unfold in the journey also.
Hmm.
So,
Yes.
yeah. So what books do you recommend?
Oh, I have so many favorite books on my bookshelf over there. My top book in the world is Dr. Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural. I love his work. I'm a member of his global community. I love what we're doing in the world, who we're being. Highly recommend that. That's more on the sciencey side of things. Another great book I really adore is James Nestor's Breath. It is a really great read and really changes the way I relate to my own breath, and really is so helpful in understanding how the body works and how the breath works in the body, and historically why humans have changed the way we breathe in relationship to our lifestyle choices.
Mm.
And then I love MetaHuman by Dr. Deepak Chopra, who I've followed since. I think Dr. Chopra was probably the first book I read on. Actually, I read Bill Moyers had a PBS special in the 1990s around mind body medicine, and that just opened the door for me. And then Deepak Chopra's Perfect Health launched me when I was 18. I read that, and it sent me on a path of being interested in mind body medicine.
Beautiful. What other services do you offer? Do you offer any classes, events, trainings?
Yeah, I am doing a lot. I offer private sessions, of course, and I offer people tools around heart brain coherence. I'm trauma sensitive practitioner with the HeartMath Institute, and a resilience trainer with a program the HeartMath Institute has called the Coherence Advantage. And that work is fascinating, to get into community groups and businesses and help people understand the power of the heart in relationship to engagement and culture shifting, emotional regulation, and stress reduction. I love to teach Reiki. I am so grateful to be part of the Usui lineage, where as a Reiki master teacher, I can, embellish the training. And so I offer people a lot of the awareness around the heart and quantum physics and some of the Eastern models of mysticism, and how neurology and endocrinology interface to create a state of being. So in my Reiki certification, I'm always layering a lot of that material in, and it's super fun. I love to see people spend one day immersed in Reiki, and to leave totally set on a whole other highly energized path. And in addition to all that, I am, you mentioned in the intro that I am one of the founding members of the Healing Garden, and we are a nonprofit. We're all volunteers, and we are creating a whole new medical model of care based on heart coherence and connection and storytelling and collaborative care. So we're working toward a model of having a sanctuary space here in Midcoast, Maine, where we can have providers of different kinds, traditional allopathic medicine as well as holistic medicine, where providers collaborate to get people the best care, free of financial barriers.
Beautiful. Where can we find you? Are you online? Are you in person? How can we reach you to book a session or to sign up for a training?
People can look at my website. It's dianamariachapin.com. And I do mostly in-person and remote sessions of Reiki these days, and workshops only locally. So remote and in-person Reiki sessions and in-person training.
All right, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, that ends the first part of our journey, and I'm going to continue to guide you to the second part, which is questions submitted by listeners and Reiki students. So let's begin. Number 1, can you tell me about the Coherence Advantage, an evidence-based HeartMath Institute resilience program?
Yes, I'd love to tell you about that, but it makes sense, I think, to talk a little bit about what the heart's doing in the body to explain why it's such an exciting program. So our heart communicates 4 different ways with our brain bidirectionally, and so the HeartMath Institute has put so much study into how the heart mechanically, neurologically, hormonally, and electromagnetically communicates bidirectionally with the brain. And basically, what the science is showing is that the heart is influencing the activity of the brain in profound ways. And in fact, I'd mentioned decision making and focus and intuition, but really the most profound way is when our heart is in a state of coherence or harmony, then our brain is perceiving reality in a whole other way, like in a way in which we perceive greater possibility and connection. And so the Coherence Advantage is this beautiful program that I am able to relate to any population of humans anywhere, sharing this this evidence-based programming, the science of the heart, and how when we engage in tools around heart coherence individually and as a group, we are affecting outcomes in a positive way. So stress management is improved, emotional regulation is improved, group decision making is improved, creativity is enhanced, and overall engagement and general happiness and joy are expanded. So it's delightful to work with individuals and teams and businesses to craft a sort of a unique presentation of this material in a way that is tailored to their needs for what they're going on. And it's really beautiful to watch people shifting culture and feeling happier at work and feeling more creative and empowered. So, yeah.
Beautiful. So our second question, as a scientist, how do you explain energy healing to someone who doubts the benefits of energy healing?
Well, in my work, I always start with the science of the heart. And for most people, in fact, everybody I've ever shared this with is just intuitively known, okay, yeah, there is something going on with the heart consciousness. And when I can then tell them, there's actually this map of a human being in this universe that is these energy centers. And in Eastern mysticism, they were called chakras. And we now know that those are places where nerve plexuses emerge from our spine. And there's this spiraling phenomenon of energy flowing into the body. And in this electromagnetic universe, energy flows. And so we're using our body as an instrument of consciousness to facilitate the flow of energy. And oftentimes I'll even, remind them of the model of being human that we all inherited, which is like this body is a collection of systems. And if we look at the systems, well, there's organs, and what are organs? They're tissues. And I take them down to the atomic level. And at that level, we're just space, and there's an energy exchange, particle, wave, and energy matter. So just inviting them to understand that there's more to reality than the physical body, and that we inherited a model that is, I think, now obsolete. and we're learning through quantum physics that we have this inherent birthright to enjoy observing ourselves as energy. And the best teacher of that, of course, is to invite people to have an experience. And then when they lay their body down on my table, or we have a remote session and they experience the movement of energy, or maybe they're seeing something in their third eye, or they feel this massive release in their solar plexus or a lump in their throat, then we can have that conversation about, yeah, people feel lumps in their throats and stress in their solar plexus, and they go to the doctor and all the specialists, and nothing can be found in the material world because it's energy. And then they experience that healing through Reiki, and they, through the experience, can authenticate for themselves that it is real. I will say that I think a lot of us in this culture still are somewhat secretive about if we have an energy healer, because it is in the environment that I'm around, it's not mainstream in any way.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
It's so great. I'm so excited. Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's why I'm so excited about the work of the HeartMath Institute and Dr. Joe, because they're really studying it, and it's so undeniable when you hear the results of studies with thousands of people now.
Right. And this is perfect because that's our goes into our third question. So, can you tell me a little bit about the HeartMath Institute, and what was the appeal for you to move forward with working with them?
Well, the best way to understand the work of the HeartMath Institute would be for people to go right on their website at heartmath.org and look at the various opportunities to learn. There's a tab on their website called the HeartMath Experience, which is a series of short videos, in total under 2 hours, to really understand their work. But what happened to me was, back when I discovered Reiki, I now know that I was dismantling all of those models that I'd learned. And because I had a fair amount of distrust given the religious culture I was raised in and I no longer was a part of, that I just wanted to honor what my body was giving me as my truth. And that was a very courageous move on my part, considering how I grew up and what I was a part of. So I made that shift to trust my body. And that's where I started experiencing a lot of things. I met Mary. And then when I read Dr. Joe's Becoming Supernatural, I was like, oh, yes, this man is real, because I felt this all first. And then he's explaining to me in scientific verbiage what that is. And along the lines there somewhere, I was just tuning into the energy of my body and space. And I was developing this meditation practice that I thought was unique and wonderful. And I said to a friend who does Tai Chi, oh my God, I'm doing this super cool meditation. I just sort of suspend myself in that state where my mind is awake, but I lost track of where my body is. And it's so amazing. Everybody should be doing this. And he said, yeah, everybody's been doing that. That's yoga nidra. And people have been doing it for thousands of years. And so in my accidental practice of yoga nidra, I then read about yoga nidra, and I discovered that what I was just doing intuitively was feeling into the space of my chest and tuning into the energy of my heart, and having this wordless dialogue in consciousness with my unconscious self. And I don't know if that makes sense, but like in meditation, the door between the conscious and unconscious mind opens, and you receive information from your unconscious body mind that is so personal and healing. And then I learned about the HeartMath Institute, and I was like, those people, they've got it, because I felt that. So I guess in my journey, I like learned in reverse of most people. Like most people go out and learn, and then they have an experience. And I feel greatly blessed that I had the courage to just go out and interact with myself and inquire to my own body and my connection to infinite divine love, like what's right for me. And then feel so incredibly grateful to have stumbled upon Dr. Joe and the HeartMath Institute and some others. Like I love Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and Shamani Jane, and like they're all, it's like, oh, all right, we're like all of us are members of this super organism of humanity, and we're all doing our part, and we're evolving in consciousness. And I was receiving that because I'm resonant with it. It wasn't like I made new discoveries. I'm just resonant with this movement and consciousness and evolving humanity, more moving toward more heart-based culture.
Yeah. And you're on the journey. And look at
Mm-hmm.
all the wonderful things you've collected on the journey and those who have helped guide you in that direction. So how
Yeah.
wonderful is that? And you're keeping going and
Mm-hmm.
sharing your gift with others. So wonderful. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that was our last question. As we were talking, is there something you may have forgotten about or something else that you want to share with our listeners? You can take the time now to, the floor is yours.
I guess the only thing I would encourage people to do is to really feel into the reality that what we're thinking and feeling with our quote unquote individual body is deeply meaningful and makes an impact. I think that we're living in a time where people feel a lot of charge over separation and competition and division. And we've been trained to look to the world outside us and, let that guide us, or let that drive our emotional states. And we think that if we become part of the right group of people, we will make change. But what energy is showing, and what science is showing, is that it's actually the change in our own heart. It's the way we interact with our own thoughts and our own feelings that's vibrating out into space and affecting things relationally. So I just encourage people to really believe and practice that what they think and feel is deeply meaningful and profoundly effective, in fact, to shift humanity. So if we look outside us and we see things that are distressing, the response that we can condition ourselves to is to look within us and to move into our own heart and activate a feeling of love and gratitude. And we will feel better in our body, and relationally, we will be affecting others with that. And that's what I think Reiki is. Reiki is a group of people across the planet who are really good at getting coherent and being in love. And in that practice, we are positively influencing other beings into their own coherence, and hopefully leading them to center in their own heart and develop their own ability to get coherent and create the life they want.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to be a part of the Ready, Set, Reiki journey.
You're welcome, Tracy. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, my wonderful listeners, if you are interested in your question being featured on the podcast, reach out at www.readysetreiki.com or check me out on social media. Also, check out Feather Sister Yoga and Reiki that offers a variety of Reiki classes, Reiki trainings, and yoga classes as well. I'm Tracy Seawright, and this has been Ready, Set, Reiki.